just to start off with, I'm going to hand over to each person on the panel to introduce themselves and tell you just who they are, and then give it back to me and I'll ask another question, and then we'll go again. So starting with you, Ez.
Me?
Yeah.
Just
who you are, that would do.
Hi guys, my name is Esmee. I come from a fitness background. I've been in the fitness industry for about 8 years now, 5 of those years spent in London. And just recently I've stepped away from the group exercise scene and I'm going more into wellness and focusing on corporate wellness. So going in and speaking to people about why exercise is good for your mental health and well-being and just trying to make people really happy and heal the world. Do I pass it back? Over to you. I think you need this.
That's just working it, hold on.
I'll just hold that.
Great. Hi guys, my name is Thomas. I'm a professional athlete and also founder of the Turmeric Co. So some of you hopefully will have the small little shot bottles in your hands. Feel free to enjoy them. And yeah, that's who I am.
Very modest going along here, please be.
Hi, so I'm Ben Tansely. Basically 2 years ago I was paralysed due to a motorbike accident. Kind of quite a dramatic event really, but it's kind of been one of the best things that has happened to me really. You know, it's lent to like loads of different things. We've done loads of challenges, raised loads of money for charity, and just inspiring people to be better and kind of look at life in a different way. So yeah, I mean that's why I'm here really, just to kind of tell a story and try and make you all look at things a little bit different. Yeah.
This is such a good panel to be on. Kind of like the black sheep. People always say, what do you do? Oh, I'm 30 and I don't have a fucking clue, to be honest. I'm still figuring that out, to be honest with you. Probably the least intelligent person in this room, but somehow that's actually worked in my favour. I set myself crazy challenges that people don't think are possible, and I guess being thick has enabled me to achieve these challenges. And it's only recently where I've actually made a career of it, and hopefully we're going to create a legacy, not just me, but all the amazing people that have supported me. There's one man that I've just spotted there, Dan, this legend, and actually there's another legend here. In fact, this room is full of legends that have supported myself and Tano with the crazy challenges that we've done. And like I said, we're trying to create a legacy, and I think the most important thing for me is that I was subjected to disability in some of the harshest ways, and I think the challenges that we set, I actually subject myself to these harsh realities, and hopefully then that subjects to the greater audience some of the harsh realities of what these individuals go through every single day. And I guess we'll talk about that in a bit. Yeah. Cheers, guys.
Thank you. So just to briefly touch on how I know everyone on the panel. Every single person on the panel is amazing, as you're about to find out, and the relationships I've been able to kind of build with these people has been brilliant, bar Josh, which we get into that, I think. But Esmee, we spoke on the podcast, and on the episode we actually talked about Tony Robbins and Unleash the Power Within, which was amazing, by the way, and I recommend going if anyone is interested in that sort of stuff, which I imagine you are because you're here tonight. But we went there and became friends, and we've been friends ever since, and she does absolutely incredible stuff. She's been far too modest. She was on the TV series SAS, Who Dares Wins, and got into the final, and you were the lightest by, what was it?
The lightest and the smallest.
Lightest and the smallest, like you weighed less than your Bergen or something. something like that.
My Bergen was 23 kilos
yeah,
and I weighed 20. Let's keep that.
And moving on to Thomas, like, in case you don't know, Thomas just said he's a professional athlete. He's a professional footballer, plays for West Brom and Wales. Is anyone familiar with Tom? Scored arguably Wales' best, West Brom fan at the back, scored arguably Wales' best goal ever, and that's saying something because Bale's in the team. Are you taking that?
Yeah.
And Tano, for anyone who listens to the podcast, people have said it's the best one because he's just got the most incredible energy and aura about himself. He's the most authentic person, in my opinion, that I've met, and just got the most extreme mindset. He's just an amazing person to be around. And Josh, we only just met here tonight, but we spoke twice on the phone, and the first time was for me just to say, mate, can you come on my podcast? And we ended up speaking for like 30 minutes.
That's Josh in general. You can't have a quick phone call.
So moving on, guys, we're going to talk to everyone on the panel about their biggest challenge or their idea of the biggest piece of adversity that they've faced. But before we do that, I want Ez to kind of give a definition around adversity to tee it up, and then the other three are going to share their stories of the biggest challenge they've faced.
Thank you. So for me, when it comes to adversity, one of the things I think I've learned more recently as time has gone on is that everyone is facing adversity every single day. And I think back when I was younger, I just believed that bad things happened to people and then they were in a bad place, and I would scale it. So I'd be like, oh my God, that's the worst thing that's ever happened. So they're in a worse position than this person. So for example, the difference between breaking your little finger and breaking a leg. And I was like, oh, well, they broke their leg, so they're in more pain and they're facing more adversity and it's more difficult for them. And one of the things I've realised as time has gone on is that everybody faces their own personal adversity. And whether it is a broken finger or a broken leg, it's your personal pain. So that's something that I've learned over the years, because for me, 10 years ago, I got paralysed from an operation that went wrong, and I had to learn to walk again. And when people say to me, like when Mark said at the beginning, what is your biggest challenge you've ever faced? People would assume that's the biggest thing I've ever faced, because it's, you know, something that we put on a scale of, oh my God, I've never done that, so it must be horrendous. And actually, there's probably been things over the past 10 years that have hurt me more than when I was in that hospital bed 10 years ago. So for me, I think adversity is very personal, and that we're all facing it. Every single person in this room right now is going through something that hurts them just as much as anybody else. It's just what we label it and what it is.
Awesome. Thanks very much. Well said. So, Thomas, to kick us off, could you talk about your biggest challenge today, please?
All right, guys. So most of you may know me as a professional footballer. I didn't just obviously magically appear on a football pitch in front of 30,000 people. It was a journey which taught me a lot, educated me a lot, and ultimately turned me into an individual where I'm now trying to make a difference to other people's lives, which a lot of the people, you know, obviously Louis, you know, Mark yourself, it's fantastic stories where being in a position to give back and actually offer value to other people. I was 15 years old, one of the top talents in the country, playing for England internationally, although obviously had Welsh heritage. And I was playing with 23-year-olds at the time. So when you're 15, you're quite small, very slight, and went into a challenge. Massive guy has just swiped out my knee, and my left knee touched and pushed out my right knee. So my anterior cruciate ligament effectively snapped in half. The cartilage disappeared in my knee, and overnight I was facing at least a year on the recovery table after surgery. So I went through that and then got back, worked hard, did everything that I could to try and recover, and then at 16 years old began playing again, hopes of achieving my dreams, and the same thing happened again. So from the space of 15 to 17, I went from potentially being one of the top talents in the country as a professional footballer to the surgeon after the surgery telling my father that I should probably look at a different career path, and that I would ultimately never play football at the level that I should, and certainly never without pain. So at 17 years old, being physically broken, being mentally effectively destroyed, being in a place where, you know, I couldn't speak to my friends, I couldn't speak to my family, I didn't know how to deal with the situation at that moment in time. And that probably is the biggest challenge that I've had to face in my life up until this date, and obviously overcoming that is a story which obviously I'll tell.
Amazing, thank you, mate. And Ben, over to you. I know you spoke a little bit about it briefly, but to get more detail around the accident.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, my biggest adversity is obviously becoming paralysed. It was, you know, just over 2 years ago now. Had a motorbike accident. Actually was visiting Josh on the morning of his birthday, so I'd like to blame him, but it wasn't. It's just an accident. But yeah, so I was kind of airlifted to hospital, told that I would never ever be able to walk, stand. which I can now do. I can stand, and I can kind of take some steps. So I've done what I shouldn't be able to do. But adversity, like Esmee said, is individual. You know, I think like what's big to me, it might be little to somebody else. And I think, you know, the biggest thing I've kind of learned is like to get over adversity is acceptance. So you know, I accepted it really early on, and I just haven't had a down day. But that has led to inspiring others to do like better. So like generally the messages I get every day and the people I help is massive. So you know, I accepted it, and that's just, for me, that's been the biggest part of it. So yeah, just that's what it is. Just kind of been cracking on. So, what else to say, really? You know.
Such a surreal human being.
Kind of lost my way a bit there.
You know, just I'm so proud to call this man my friend, because he's changed my life, and he changes so many people's lives, and he's so humble. And it's such a surreal experience, because what this man's gone through, to be told that you're never going to walk again, and the harsh realities of what he goes through every single day. But the way he lives his life, it's almost like he doesn't have the disability, and I think that's what's so incredible about him. And we went on holiday recently, and he struggled because the facilities were shocking, the support network around was shocking. And I think it's the first time with you, I think, in maybe like the 2-year period where I went, fuck, he's in a wheelchair, and this is really fucking savage. And I hope you don't mind me saying this, but this is kind of the magnitude of it. We were in a Schwa nightclub, great nightclub if you haven't been before, apart from the facilities. and unfortunately, a lot of people don't really go for sunshine and relaxation. They do a lot of drugs, shock in Ibiza. And that meant that this man couldn't use the facilities. And I had to sit next to him, and he had to put a towel over his legs, and he had to piss himself, didn't you?
Pee myself, went into a bucket.
Well, into a bucket. But that was a realisation for me, what this man is going through, and this is kind of where my journey has really developed. Just before I met him, I created a series called Limitless, and that was inspired by the adversities that I was faced with. I was very, very lucky with my childhood. I've got a wonderful mother and father, but my dad is a very hardened Northern Irish man who had a fucking horrendous life. And as beautiful of a human being that he is unfortunately the generation that cannot accept weakness, and unfortunately causes destruction and fights battles when there's no battle to be had. And unfortunately, from a very young age, I was subjected to that, and I had to be that punching bag with him. And unfortunately, that's kind of what fucked me up, and I kind of inherited my mental illnesses from a very young age. My anxiety, which has dominated my entire life, really was created by him, and yet I'm so in love and so grateful for this man, because he's enabled me the opportunities that I have to this day. So it's very conflicting. And I think it was about 21, 22, of a very long story, where it just got too much, and I was getting in a lot of fights. Life was deteriorating, value was very minimal, and I smashed my room up. And it got to the point where there was a pane of glass, and I wanted to end my life, and I was covered in blood. And I went to finish it, and there was something in me that stopped me from doing it. I have absolutely no idea what it was, but the fact that I flinched and I didn't do it meant that there was value in my life, and I needed to figure out what that value was. And my life kind of developed on from there. Out of nowhere, a TV show called Made in Chelsea came into the picture. Some of you may watch it, some of you may resent it. That's just the way it is. But it actually was my saviour. It enabled me to get out of the place that I hated and give me a fresh start. But what was special about this opportunity, as much as people hate reality, I went into it with a clear mindset of what I wanted to achieve, which was fitness, fashion, and mental health. I could spread that message. It enabled me a platform to speak on Good Morning Britain. It was the first time that I spoke openly about my adversities, and I got to connect with people on a level that I never thought would be possible. And the one thing that I really want all of you to really fucking believe, and this is my mantra, is limitless. Everyone is limitless. And people cringe at it and they go, oh, really? But until you look at yourself in the mirror and you go, I am limitless. And when you do believe that you are limitless, I'm telling you now, there is nothing in this world that you cannot do. And I mean that. And that's why I created this series, Limitless. I was meeting people, a bit like yourself, from all different walks of life, facing adversities in one way or another. And they were written off for many different reasons. And they were proving the system wrong. And one of the things that I would love to say to you guys is that so often in life we're given statistics and we just believe them. And I think the most important thing of all is that you create your own statistic, like these individuals. There's one girl, an incredible girl, Sophie, who has cystic fibrosis. She takes 80 pills a day, she's on a nebulizer, and she is just, I'm so blessed to have her in my life. I mean, you know, medical science, maybe for the right reasons, have written her off, and she just constantly defies the odds. She was told not to climb Kilimanjaro, and she was the second person to reach the summit. She's just cycled for John O'Groats to Land's End. She just had a boxing fight last year, or I think it was this year. She's the most incredible human being. There's another guy who is a semi-professional rugby player. He went to bed, and when he woke up the next day, he could no longer walk, speak, and the mobility in his hands are completely gone. Life literally ruled him off. He got to the point where people were telling his partner to leave him and not feel compelled to stay. He just wanted to end it. And then he had that realization that the greatest gift of all was life. And he still had that, and he still had time to make that change. And I'm proud to say that this man now not only can walk, but he took up fitness modeling. He's a qualified personal trainer, and he now has clients that range from cancer, autism, Parkinson's, and all of their symptoms genuinely have improved. And I think it's because he connects with them on a level that maybe not many people can. And I think the most beautiful quality that every individual that I work with, and a quality that I'm so grateful to have, is empathy. And that's where we all connect. And I think this is where this journey from creating Limitless to actually me subjecting myself to these challenges is I empathize with him on a level that maybe not so many people would. And I think what's beautiful about his injury is that we truly believe it's the greatest thing that ever happened to him. And I say that because it's the greatest thing that ever happened to me, because I think what we've achieved in the last 2 years is something that we're so incredibly proud of. And it's for those small moments. I have a little girl, she's 2 years old. And to go from a point in your life where you want to end your life to then becoming a daddy, I used to go and train in Norfolk with my dad. My dad would push my little girl in the pram, and I'd be in the wheelchair training for when we were doing Berlin. And she used to get really agitated. And then finally my dad let her out of the pram. And the first thing she did before she was 2 years old was run over to her daddy and push me in my wheelchair. I have a video of this. And it's these moments of like reflection where you are so proud that you decided to make that right decision and live your life for that, because I now have that positive influence on my little girl, and it's like that ripple effect, what she will then go and do to others. And hopefully one day when she gets a little bit older, it's breaking that social barrier. She won't see an individual in a wheelchair, she just sees a human being. And a really proud moment when we finished John O'Groats to Land's End, he has a son, Jude, and all Jude wanted to do was buy a really expensive coat, didn't he? And he kept saying, you don't want to do that, you don't want to do that. Jude watched his father finish John O'Groats to Land's End with me, and I saw him run over to him, and he said, Dad, I know what I want to spend my pocket money on. I want to buy a wheelchair, and I want to do races with you. And it's these moments in life that make every fucking bit of pain worth it for that single moment. And I think this is an exciting journey for us. You know, we're about to embark on another challenge next year. I basically don't even know what we're doing. I get a phone call every other day, and he's got some new crazy idea in his mind that he wants to do. But I think what's important is there's a lot of people out there right now who are struggling, who need all of our help. And every single person in this room has that opportunity to make that difference in their life. And every challenge that I do, I subject myself to a hell of a lot of pain, but the pain will never amount to how I felt when I wanted to end my life. So actually, although I subject myself to a lot of shit, I'm so fucking grateful for it. You know, I think life every single day is incredible, and to what extent we can take these challenges, to what extent I can take Limitless, I have no idea. But I'm kind of going off topic, but I just want to say I'm so grateful to be in your presence this evening. I'm so privileged to be on this panel with these individuals. You know, every single person somehow. We're sat here, you know, Tom believed in Tano and I when not a lot of brands did. You know, it's very controversial for an able-bodied person to be in a wheelchair, and him and Simon believed in us and they sponsored us, and I, you know, forever internally grateful to him. Esmee is a person I reached out to, and what I respect about her, which not many people will know from a reality background, is it's kind of rigged and it's a lot of shit. And actually what I really admire about her is that a lot of people will try and capitalize on as much as possible to get TV time. And actually, rather than capitalizing on her story of not being able to walk, she wanted to be judged on her merit based on her performance on that show. And I think that says a lot about her character. And to have this man sat here as well, to be told that you're never going to walk again, and he's now standing and he's now taking steps, and the ambitions we have that he will walk the London Marathon. I think it's next year your ambitions are?
I think we're a year after, maybe. give me 12.
We'll give him a couple of years, but kind of going off topic, but I'm so humbled to be here tonight and actually to see so many faces that have inspired me, and I can't wait to reach out to you too. I know I'm kind of meant to be talking about my story, but just fucking awesome.
Can you see why his phone calls last so long? Maybe 2 minutes.
Yeah, that answer was limitless. Mate, thank you for being so honest as well. Thanks for being so honest, mate. Honestly, I think that's really, really powerful, and you've teed it up brilliantly, because the next question was going to be, what's the benefit that's come from the adversity that you faced? So for the guys that haven't answered that yet, and then we'll go on to Josh again after that. So what was the...
Just leave me out, these guys are going to go home tonight.
So what was the benefit that came from the adversity that you faced?
Thanks for that, Josh. No, I think that the message there is everyone's on the journey, and ultimately the biggest question is like, what is life? I think people will wake up in the mornings and the question isn't really spoken about openly. You know, mainstream media, it's a barrage, you know, it's hitting you, you know, the environment that we're in. No one actually goes within themselves, as has been mentioned before, you know, whether it's through meditation, through experiences, but that is ultimately the biggest unknown for us as human beings. And I think ultimately what we're discussing is, you know, what is the values that we have living in this day and age, and what are we experiencing, what is the benefit of the experiences that we have, and ultimately then how does that affect and knock on not only the people around us but generations beyond us too. So no, thank you for sharing that, Josh. It was very good. I think from my perspective, being a professional athlete and wanting to achieve my dreams, and having the setbacks that I had at such an early age, it shaped what my path ultimately has led me to now. At 17 years old, I began playing again, and I wasn't playing at the level that I wanted to. I was playing with pain. I was being pumped with anti-inflammatories, you know, prescription drugs, paracetamols, ibuprofens, diclofenacs, Celebrexes. Diclofenac has now been banned for all professional athletes, and I was having, you know, two to three of them a day, like Smarties. But I had to take them to try and reduce the pain I was experiencing while coming back from training and from games. And it was that process which led me down a road where I then began passing blood in my urine. I would have nausea, headaches after games. I couldn't sleep. I was, you know, it was a dark cycle that I began to get into, and I had to get out of it. So I had to stop taking the medication, and ultimately having to stop taking the medication, I was playing with severe pain. And as an 18-year-old, competing in what is the toughest industry, sports industry around, every little kid wants to become a professional footballer, right? And it was extremely tough. So I remember being at home, had just finished a reserve game, went to walk up the stairs, and I actually physically couldn't because of the pain in my knee. It was swollen like a balloon, and I couldn't take any of the medication that I was having. So I turned to my dad and I said, look, we need to find something. There must be something out there. And so we began doing some research, and this was, you know, 13 years ago, and there wasn't the wealth of information on the internet as there is now. But we began, you know, looking in old libraries, you know, ancient medicine, what people did back in ancient times as a natural holistic remedy to pain and inflammation, and that led me to nutrition, and it led me to understanding about ingredients such as pineapple, the bromelain in pineapple, such as ginger, the polyphenols in ginger, such as turmeric, the curcumin content in turmeric, what that effect has. And we found out that these ingredients have been used in Eastern medicine for centuries as a natural form of medication, whether that's to relieve a cold or flu, to reduce inflammation, to help with nausea, to help with depression, to help with pretty much every single thing that we have a tablet now. These natural ingredients were supporting well in ancient times. So we basically got these ingredients in within a week. We had them all on the table, and we began mushing them up and turning them into a blend, into a mush, into a juice, which I would consume. And after about a month of doing it, we had the blend wasn't as disgusting as it was, but it didn't taste like what these shots do now. But I persevered because I had no other choice. And after about 3 months, I remember literally waking up and I didn't have pain in my knee, and I couldn't understand what it was, if it was actually that. But I thought I'd try it out and test it, and I stopped taking them for 2 weeks, and the pain came back. And it was almost like a light bulb moment for me in my own life, for understanding that actually the narrative that we're fed, and I had been told by surgeons, doctors, physios, that I would always play with pain. The narrative that we are fed and the environment which we're in may not always be the actual reality. And they have been effectively my secret weapon since. I've used them pretty much every single day for my whole career. I'm now 30. And 3 years ago I was in Harrods and I saw a turmeric shot on the shelf, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, we don't have to make them anymore. And anyone who uses turmeric at home will know it ruins blenders, it stains your fingers, it destroys any utensil that touches it. So seeing it on the shelf was like, I don't have to spend 200, 300 pounds a year on the actual machinery to make these at home. And so I bought them, took them home, drank them, and I nearly spat it out. I couldn't believe how inferior it was. It was made from powdered turmeric. It was made with 98% apple juice, and it was sitting on a Harrods shelf. And it was that moment again, another realization that, wow, look at what we're being given as our means for nutrition in the top shops in the UK and in the world. And it inspired me to actually bring what I had used as a secret weapon up until that point to everyone throughout the UK. And it became my mission to bring natural holistic health through natural nutrition to everyone in the UK and in the world. And that was, at that moment in time, the Turmeric Co founded. So that's my story.
Wow.
The benefit. What was the benefit of facing adversity for me? I think it's been a few things, to be honest. Firstly, going back on what Josh said earlier, was empathy. Being able to, empathise with people. I think when you face adversity, like I said earlier, everybody is individual in their adversity. However, I do think when you've been to a stage like that, you can understand what people are going through. You're never going to know what someone's going through, ever. Like, everybody in this room, nobody knows what you were going through. They think they know, and they're the ones that you get really pissed off with when you're like, you don't know. You think you know, but you don't. And I think you can understand it on a deeper level when you've faced adversity. You really can feel for other people, and you really can connect with other people, and you really do have a deeper understanding of wanting to help people. You just can't even face the thought of someone feeling a percentage of what you felt. So I think that the empathy has been a benefit. Another thing is it's a gift to me. I've managed to be able to turn what happened to me into a gift, and I believe that if everybody can do this with their adversity, you can start seeing life in a completely different way. I just think anything that you've been through or anything you're going through is your gift, and it is your responsibility to use that gift. every single day. Every time life slams you down, because I'm going to tell every single one of you in this room that life is going to slam you down over and over again. I'm not going to sit here and say that anything that we say on this panel tonight is going to change your life and you're going to go out there and nothing bad is going to happen. I'm the person that's telling you that things are going to go wrong every single day. There's something waiting for you. And it's how you use it and how you use your gift in those moments. So yeah, the second benefit for me has definitely been being able to turn my pain and what I went through into a gift. If I could do that, I can do the next thing. And I think probably the third thing, because you did ask what the three benefits were, didn't you? So I'm just saying all three. You said the three benefits. So the third thing for me is being able to do things that I can and actually doing them. I've been to a place where I couldn't, and I think I actually feel sorry for people who haven't been to a place of can't. Like, I actually feel sorry for people because I've been to a place where I couldn't, so now I live my life doing the things I can. And if you all sit in this room right now, what are you doing right now that you can do that someone can't? And are you doing it? We have so many things that are available to us, so many things that we can do, and people are choosing not to, even if it is just a 5K run. There was a time where I would have done anything to do burpees, and I used to teach fitness classes and say burpee, and everyone go, oh, what? I couldn't do burpees at one point, and I would have done anything to do a burpee. I love burpees. I don't know why people don't like them. I love burpees. But going to a place of can't means that it makes you do things. So when people offer me these challenges and say, Esmee, do you want to do this? Yeah, why? Because I can. So I think take a moment, even if it is tonight, what aren't you doing that you can be doing that someone can't? And that definitely comes from not just my own adversity, but I also have a brother who has a heart condition that unfortunately isn't repairable. And there's so many things that my brother would love to do and to have done, and he never got the opportunity to do them, and there's things that he won't have. And just having that in my life is the reason that I take on these challenges and do things that my brother can't do. So if you don't have adversity that you think you face that puts you in that position, there is always somebody out there that can't, so please try and do it for them.
Just before we hand over to Tano to hear what his benefits were, can I just ask you to tell your philosophy about the child within you? Because I think everyone would benefit from hearing this story, and it's an amazing philosophy that Ez lives by.
Yeah, so basically when I was 18 and I was paralysed, there was just a moment where basically if I had been 17, it was a month, I turned 18 by a month. If I had been 17, I would have been put on a children's ward, meaning that my family would have been available to stay with me 24 hours. But because I turned 18 by 1 month, I was classed as an adult, and I was an absolute baby. And just by that month, it meant that my parents had to leave at 9 p.m. every night. So I was left on my own from 9 at night till 8 in the morning, and it was the worst time, as you can imagine. And it was when all these feelings started creeping in, and I started actually feeling the doom of what was happening. And there was one night that I really remembered where I felt like my chest was like being crushed. I just felt sick. And you know when you get that feeling of anxiety and the first thing that you want to do is stand up and shake and move around and do something? And the fact was that I couldn't. And it reminded me of a time when I was about 6 years old, and we might all remember it. It's that time when you're like laying in bed at night and you're wide awake, and then you realise that you're going to die one day. And it's the first realisation as a kid that you're like, oh my God, my parents are going to die, and my grandparents are going to die, that means I'm going to die, and the world's going to come to an end, and what is the world? And you have that feeling. And I remember when it had happened to me as a kid, and I went downstairs to my mum and dad, and I sort of said something and made them just change the subject in my head. I didn't tell them what I was thinking, I just tried to shake it off. So I was back in this position at 18 years old, feeling the same emotions as I did as a 6-year-old, but I had no one that I could go to. I couldn't get out of bed, run down to my mum and dad and get them to change the subject. And it was the real big moment when I realised that it wasn't me feeling like it was my inner child. It was the 6-year-old Esmee still sitting inside me, and I didn't have anyone to look after me. The only person I had was me. But how lucky was I? I had 18-year-old Esmee who could look after 6-year-old Esmee. I had her on demand. I didn't have to go downstairs or call her up. She was there waiting. And the minute that I was able to take the inner child out and actually speak as me at 18 years old, and what I'd learned so far up to that age to a 6-year-old, I was able to bring myself round and be able to help myself rather than giving someone else the inner child to help. And it's a concept that I've used throughout my whole life till now. When things go wrong in my life, the first thing I immediately want to do is take my inner child out and give it to someone to look after. Like the friend that always calls you with the same problem about the same guy, you know, that inner child guy. So with that, what I try and do now is, when it happens to me, is take a moment. It sounds a bit weird, but like look in the mirror and be like, Ez, you got this. We're good, even if we're not. But yeah, so that's the inner child concept.
Nice.
Yeah. So back to me. So the benefits of my accident, there are so many, and not just for me. I think like for everybody. You know, I genuinely believe that everything happens for a reason. I've lived my life by it, so I kind of knew from day one that something good would come from something bad, and you know, it generally has, not just for me, for everybody. So the biggest kind of lesson I've learned is that, you know, you can talk to people and inspire them to do better, and actually by connecting people, it, you know, it actually helps you. So everybody what I feel I've helped, they've also helped me by sending me messages. So that was kind of like a massive benefit. I think the biggest thing I kind of learned for me myself was, before I've always boxed, I've always been fit, healthy, used to do like men's physique competition, so I was very set on like image, you know, how I felt I had to look the part, lean. And the biggest thing I've learned since the accident is that actually image is such a personal thing. You know, I kind of, at a stage, a lady in hospital, I thought, cool, how am I going to feel now, you know, having this belly I can't get rid of. And since the accident, I've realised that actually people see past that. That's not, you know, if I'm happy within myself, that inner aura comes out, and people don't see that, you know, and actually a smile and just that energy you give off has been the biggest thing for me to come to realisation with. And, you know, I do still struggle sometimes. I'll sit and I'll pull my top out, but I'm not bothered by it, and I have learned that actually, you know, a smile is by far better than any physical kind of appearance. So that's kind of been the biggest thing I've learned from the injury, yeah, if that makes sense.
I promise to keep this answer 2 minutes tops, and if I don't,
I'm going to set my
sorry.
stopwatch.
Yeah, she's done. Ed's basically just nailed it on the head. I just think it's really hard for certain individuals to believe, but I think any adversity that you face in life is truly a gift. And it might not be a gift that you want, and it might not be a gift that makes sense, but eventually it will. And when it does, it is the most powerful tool in the world. You know, whenever I ask a question to any individual that's been on Limitless, you know, if you could go back in time and change the past, or be the person that you once were, would you? And every single time they're like, no, this is me. Like, I wouldn't change it for the world. I wouldn't have achieved the things that I've achieved. I wouldn't have become the person I am now. And I look at my past, and actually I wouldn't change a thing about it. And actually all the things that I used to be so scared of, you know, I no longer am. You know, I was terrified of becoming a daddy. When I found out I was going to become a dad, I was thinking, but I have so much shit going on in my head. You know, I still haven't overcome my demons, and the last thing I want to do is subject my beautiful little girl to it. But then actually when you flip it and you see the gift that it is, if my little girl ever faces these adversities herself, she has a daddy in her life who's so prepared and so supportive. You know, when I told my dad, bless him, that I had depression, his answer was simply, you know, I'm too busy for depression. I was like, cool, and that was the end of the conversation. Whereas if my little girl ever faces that, God, she's got a daddy who's geared up for it. You know, I'm so grateful for everything that I've been through. I'm so grateful that it's inspired me to create Limitless. I'm so grateful that it's enabled me to make the network of people that I have and connect with people. Ben, the naked professor back there, you know, because of what I've done and how I've spoken out, I've connected with him, and you know, it's thanks to him that I've got through some of the trickiest spots in my life this year. I've been in a really, really dark place at times, and it's thanks to the likes of him that I've got through it. Dan Lawrence, you know, again, it's because of my adversities that have inspired me to do this challenge. You know, Dan Lawrence believed in me and trained me for free because he wanted to help me when others wouldn't. And so I'm grateful for that. And I think that's the one of the magical things about adversity, is that it connects us. You know, too often you go to a party or any sociable event and you're terrified of talking to people. And actually you come to an event like this tonight, and who are you truly terrified of speaking to? No one, because we all share the same thing. We've all faced something in life, and I think that's what's so empowering about it. you know, I hope myself or this panel have said something tonight that resonates with one of you, but actually any one of you could sit up here right now and do what we're doing, because you all have incredible stories, and I hope tonight, if anything, empowers you to speak your truth and speak your story.
Thanks guys for your answers. I've got about 6 more of my own, but I'm gonna not be selfish and let you guys ask some. So, is there anyone who's got any burning questions that they want to ask anyone on the panel, or either of our speakers? And if it's either of you guys, Louis or Michael, if you come and join us to answer the question. Is there anyone with a question? Luca?
Yeah, ask a question.
Yeah, this was
First of all, Mark, congratulations on everything you've done tonight. You've been absolutely fantastic. So. Much like yourself, I probably could ask about 5, 6 questions to each one of you, but I'm going to ask my question to Thomas. With your career, I'm assuming you've had such like surreal highs in terms of playing in World Cups and having these amazing experiences. Have you ever thought back to what you've gone through in a moment that you didn't expect it? And how was it, if you did, like how was it to have that feeling?
That's a really good question. The answer is 100% yes. How did I have the career sort of that I had going through what I'd gone through? It was more about determination than anything else. Being committed to find a solution to the injury that I had, getting back into the team and breaking into the first team and becoming an actual professional footballer, and then, breaking into the team in the Premier League and then playing at an international stage. And it was always one step after the next, but at the beginning of that journey, it was that realization of sort of beginning to understand who I am. So we're the mind, like ultimately we all have thought processes in our heads, and in this room now we're experiencing things within our mind. So ultimately the mind determines our reality. So I read a number of books around this sort of as a teenager, experiencing what I was experiencing, but what I realized was that, and what I learned and experienced was that ultimately you can define your own reality. So it's your decision to react to your environment. So, whether it's someone cutting you up in the, on the road, or, being pissed that it's raining outside and you've got to walk, and you've not got an umbrella. It's your decision to react to that environment. But ultimately, life is an experience, and we're going to experience things in life which we probably could never have conceptualized, death, trauma, all of these issues where ultimately the environment and the reality is so strong that it's difficult to actually dictate your own reality, right? So it was a concept which I began sort of understanding and thinking about and applying unknowingly to my career, and it sort of allowed me to have the success that I had, because I realized, well, I'm playing in this game now, I can determine how well I'm going to do. I'm not going to be nervous. It's 50,000 people in the stadium and they're saying you're shit, you're shit, you're shit, but I'm not going to react to that. I'm just going to play my game. And they still say I'm shit, and it's brilliant, right? So it's brilliant because I choose to say it's brilliant. That's how I'm reacting to it. So I think that was the biggest determining factor. And just quickly on that, it's interesting now, everyone in this room is here to be the best versions of themselves, right? That's what the feeling that I get. And what I would advise everyone to look into now is something called epigenetics. And epigenetics is actually, it is being scientifically proven that your thought processes can affect your genes, and your genes can ultimately affect your health, your thought processes, and what you attract into your life. It's actually being scientifically proven as we speak. So epigenetics, I think everyone should look into it and really commit to reading books about it and watching it as much as possible, because that is what I realized that I used subconsciously to have the success that I've had to date. So yeah, I think I have moments all the time when I look back and think, wow, that was, I still don't know how I did it, but now I there's a blueprint for what it was, and it's now being proven, and I would say it's called epigenetics, so everyone look into it.
Great question, Luca. Man, that's amazing. I mean, that's such a good thing to talk about. What we're here to do really is to empower everybody to see the good in everything, so it's proven scientifically now. Natalia?
I have a question. So it's for everyone in the panel, including actually Michael and Louis, but it's one answer question. So I would like to know, what is your superpower to overcome adversity?
Just one word.
Just one word.
Heal.
Then you just pass it around.
I said peel.
Creepy word.
Yourself is what I would
Isn't
say.
it turmeric?
That is one. Have you all tried them yet? It's tough going up against businesses like Coca-Cola, I'll tell you that, you know, so we're trying our best.
Ginger. Superpower. I don't want to say happiness like as a word, because happiness means something different to everybody. I don't want to say positivity either, because I hate that word. I know. Don't come up here. But yeah, I'm going to say happiness, but I mean so much more than that.
Am I allowed to answer?
No.
I would say fearlessness. Can I explain it?
Nope.
Okay.
Oh my God. She's the judge.
I would say acceptance.
Purpose.
And Louis?
I know yours.
I'm actually going to say plants.
Resilience.
Huh?
Resilience.
That was what I was going to say first, but I thought I need to get the vegan thing in there at least once.
Okay, that's it. Anyone else want to go? Thank you, Natalia. Any other questions from the audience? Liam, yeah?
Yeah. Does it stretch as far? Cool. So yeah, for anyone who fancies answering it, don't expect you all to, but for me, at this point in my life, and I look at some of you guys, and you've gone on some incredible journeys, at some points where you felt the most uncertain about what you're doing and whether or not it's the right thing for you to do, what would you say is the skill or something you've done to push through that uncertainty, or to find out that actually what you were doing was not right and something else was right, or actually you were doing something amazing and you were going to push through for it? How did you sort of find or get over that uncertainty, basically? So anyone who fancies that. I've got this.
I'd say people. Genuinely people. I think, try to say as quickly as possible, during my challenge on the Great to Land's End, I was fucking rock bottom, pissing myself, hallucinating, I was having full body convulsions, and I literally couldn't go. And it was thanks to one person, Chris King, my coordinator, who told me to shut the fuck up when I wanted to stop and just keep going. And I kept going for 10 more miles. I think we were at like 55 miles, and I think I had to reach 65. And I went into a thing called flow state. Has anyone ever heard of flow state? You probably all have your own meanings. Mine is basically just like when you push your body to such an extremity, you go into one singular like thought process. And for me, it was obviously hitting that benchmark. And I went from an average speed, bear in mind everything that I just had been subjected to, I went from an average speed of 5 miles an hour to 16 miles an hour, and I held it for 5 miles. That for me was the benchmark of like, I thought I could just get to this point, there was nothing else, and actually we don't even have a fucking clue how far we can take our minds. And it was that singular experience where even I was like, we are genuinely limitless in what we can do. There is nothing that we're incapable of doing. So yeah, flow state.
I would say you're not defined by your job or the identity you've given yourself or what you do, and therefore you're completely free to pivot whenever you want. I think we get so like tied into I'm this and I have to be this, and if I do change and everyone's going to judge me, and we're so worried about what everyone else will think. that we never dare to step outside and actually do what we want to do. So I would say just do whatever you want to do and don't be afraid to pivot and change. Don't be afraid to change direction. Actually, what's been so beneficial for the restaurant and my business is I've pivoted about 7 times. I've got a massive 4-story building. I'm like, right, that's going to be a cafe, that's going to be a restaurant, that's going to be a bar, that's going to be an office. Oh no, the cafe doesn't work. Okay, change it. Whereas a lot of people, they have an idea and they just stick to the idea. And they don't want to, because they've put it out there and now people are going to look at them funny if they change the way. But if you're like working a job being a doctor and you want to change and go and teach volleyball or something, go and do it. It doesn't matter. No one's going to. Don't stop judging it by how people externally are going to judge you, and just pivot and do whatever you want.
Yeah, thanks.
I was just going to say for me, so I have quite a relaxed approach to it. So I kind of just believe like everything happens for a reason. So when things are going tough or aren't going right, I kind of just sit back and let life unfold and kind of just wait for it to kind of show me, present me what it wants me to do. So that way I don't nothing really kind of means too much. So when it's tough, I just think, oh, something's going to work out. So I kind of just relax about it all and just let it unfold.
Amazing, man. Love it.
Yes.
I want to answer this one as well. So I wanted to speak a little bit to what Josh was saying and a little bit to what Lou was saying as well. The big difference was a shift from being like, I achieved this, I am so great, I've done all these things, which is generally how you feel when you're younger and you're growing up and you're very much from a place of ego, to being removed from that and being more about connection with other people, thinking about other people, and this whole unity. Like, this is a perfect example of what's happened tonight. Being surrounded by people like the people in the room here was the big shift for me, and then that opens more doors, like going into Michael's retreat, to Louis' retreat, and just the conversations that you end up having daily rather than before when you're all focused on yourself. Anything goes wrong is a victim mentality. Then when you're surrounded by these great people and things go wrong or you come up against difficult times, then you've got all these great people to support you and encourage you, inspire you to go on.
I'm going to echo what Tano said, which is, yeah, just actually sitting in the pain and being vulnerable. When like life's going wrong, life's shit, just sit in it. Like, it's shit. And that's it. Like, comparison is the biggest killer of joy. Like, and actually knowing that nobody deserves to be happy. Not one of you in this room deserves happiness. It doesn't show up on your doorstep. You have to work at it. The strongest people I know, the most positive people I know, I say it every time if you've ever heard any of my podcasts with people, the strongest, most positive people I know are the people that shouldn't be happy. They faced the worst things ever in my, from what I've seen. And they are happy. Not because they got given it on their doorstep. It didn't just turn up one day. They've worked on it. Every single day they're going, I don't deserve happiness, but I'm going to go and find it. They found tools and they found coping mechanisms to get there. So yeah, sitting in it, knowing that it is shit, be vulnerable, feel the pain of it, and then move on. Because life is going to keep moving on. It's just going to keep moving on. And I think all you can do is get ready to get ready to get ready. There's no end point. Mic drop.
Work it down this way. Go on.
No, I generally have nothing. I could do, but I think everyone's covered each of the areas. I think, and I'm looking forward to what the big man has to say. But no, we covered it all.
Nice one, Thomas. Cheers. Yeah, great question. And I think this was a big thing for me because I sort of coming up faced loads of adversity. You know, like sort of I had no qualifications, I had no money, I had no support, and my big thing was like. I had a mentor, my mentor was like, what's your why? If your why is powerful enough, it doesn't matter how you'll get there. Like, what is your why? And I looked at like my community, riddled with addiction. I looked at the prisons I went into, suicide. It was just rife. And I was like, I can be a beacon of light to a lot of people. And that was my why. I was like, I'm going to be that beacon of light, and then I'm going to reach back and I'm going to empower other people to step up and let their light shine as well. So that would be my thing for you. And that was like a big reason why I wrote the book. You know what I mean? I wrote the book. I could have easily ridden off in the sunset. I live in Devon on a 10-acre land, you know, and I was like, why write the book? You know, my daughters go to private school, all the parents are going to fucking judge me. Oh, there goes the armed robber. You know, like, and it was like, what's more important? What's more important than fucking kids locked up? Kids, 14-year-olds. I was in Cookham Wood Prison last week. 14-year-old kids locked up. it's for them. That's my why. That's more important than a few people judging me. So have a really big why, and really like ask yourself that. You know, in Native American tradition, they think about 7 generations ahead. Like, what is the impact? What's the impact you're having now? Are you leaving this world in a better place for the next 7 generations? And that's what I'm trying to do. So yeah, have a why.
Thank you. Shout out to Liam as well, because he listens to the podcast every week, puts it on his Instagram every week.
Free t-shirt.
Yeah, I'm just. All right, guys, we've got time for one more question. Anyone?
Can I get one? Hi, this is to anyone. When you're going through obviously your levels of adversity, what did you really notice about the right people around you? Because I think for me, I'm kind of changing a lot in my life, my career, and it's recognising who the best people are around me to support me and who are genuine in those situations.
Sorry, I've got to say this. So look, this is what happened to me. I had a load of mates who I used to sit in the pub with and drink with, and they'd be like, "We're fucking brothers, to the death, mate, to the death." I set up a business that was very successful, and none of them come to my shop opening, none of them come to visit me. They all sat in the pub judging me and hating me. He's fucking changed, he's got his head up his arse, blah, 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 blah. True friends will cheer you on. So it's really easy. It's like, Will Smith says a really good thing on one of his videos. He said, are they fanning your flames or are they pissing on your fire? So are they secretly judging you or secretly competing against you, or are they cheering you on? Because if you do something good that's making you happy and it's benefiting your life, then they should be supportive of you, even if that means you're going against the grain of what they're doing. So for me, getting sober, yeah, they were like, "You're not a fucking alcoholic, you ain't got a problem with drinking drugs." If they were true friends, they would have supported me. And they didn't, because it was shining a light on their own stuff and their insecurities. And often we have friends in our life that want you to play small. Because if you play small, I don't have to feel insecure. So stop shining your light so fucking bright, you're making me look bad. When real friends will be going, "No, keep shining, shine brighter, turn the dimmer switch up, shine bright, shine brightly." That's what true friends should do.
I think for me, that was some of the first advice I ever got as a young kid. My brother sort of said to me, he said, "Look, you know, you're going to grow old, you're going to have lots of friends, but the quicker you learn who your 5 friends are, the better your life will be." So I've kind of always had that, are these true friends or are these not? And believe it or not, through my life, I mean, I'm only 34, they've probably changed 2 or 3 times. So these people I thought were true friends kind of haven't. And tough times do reveal true friends, and they will change, but I think the quicker you can learn who they are and know they are solid friends, the better you'll be.
Just in brief, I think if you're going through that right now, I feel like life throws you this, and it's just a great way of just sieving the shit away. That just rhymed. Just sieving the shit away, and it's just a natural progression. You know, I think when we're younger and your mum or your dad go, you know, if you can count your friends on one hand, you're the wealthiest person. You're like, "This is crazy, I've got 5,000 friends." I really didn't. Well, maybe on Facebook, I don't know. But here we are when you get older and you really do realise, and I'm the same as him. I probably would say I've got 5 close friends, and actually that makes me the wealthiest person in the world. I wouldn't want any more, to be honest with you. And I think when you face these adversities, those true friends will really stand out.
I feel like these have all given you like the friend stuff, the good people stuff. So I'm going to come from a different angle, purely because when Mike was speaking, you asked that question, and Mike actually called me up a couple of months ago and asked me the same question. He said, "Ez, I'm in a bit of a situation with a friend," same thing. And we got into a conversation about it, and we spoke about how to deal with it and what a good friend is and what good people do and all of this stuff, which is what you've just heard. But actually the biggest thing that came up in the conversation was your perception of me is a reflection of you. And that was the biggest thing. And when I said that to Mike, Mike was like, because actually, don't worry about the good people, because they're good. Don't worry, they're there, they're staying, yeah? Worry about what you think of the people that are hurting you, because they're the ones you've got to get rid of. Don't worry about who you're keeping, they're staying, they'll do the work. That's what these have just said. You don't have to do nothing. It's, remember that how you are and how they act isn't nothing to do with you, it's to do with them, and it's their insecurities coming out. So always remember, I think that's the best thing that you can do, is looking at the people. Your perception of me is a reflection of you, and it's nothing to do with you. You're never doing anything wrong, it's always them. And that's why.
Thanks, guys. I just want to add a little bit to that, which is actually from my man Chris Bohr over there. You might have heard him on the Take FLIGHT podcast, co-founder and man, who speaks about how people, we spoke about it over breakfast once, how people can often flit in and out of your life, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be best friends forever, but they serve a purpose at that time in your life, and that's when you know someone's a true friend. It doesn't have to last for your whole life, but it could be 6 months. Chris's example was he met someone on holiday for a week, and for that week it was a really powerful friendship, and he tells a story better than me, so I probably should have asked him to come up here. But I think that's a really powerful thing. It stuck with me. But at the same time, I think that the relationships, when you know it's authentic, are people who want to listen. So if you're sharing and opening up about stuff and they're genuinely listening, genuinely wanting to help you and be there for you, that's how you know. It's quite an easy way to pick up on that.